Well, welcome to Managerial Finance or Business Finance. Obviously, you can see here from the textbook we're using the Larry Gitman and Chad Zutter Managerial Finance textbook. I've been using this textbook for many years. It is probably one of the easier to read textbooks, and hopefully we can get through the class and learn some important things about finance. So let's go on and start down the list. I want to change my pointer here to something a little bit more usable. Let's use a pen here so I can maybe draw some things if I have to. Finance is often referred to as the science and art of managing money. And now from the science perspective, I want to just talk about, there's research, there's a quantitative methodology that's involved. The art side is more the soft side, the building relationships, communicating with other departments, other companies, etc. So there are many levels of finance that a person can work towards to try to understand how the business world works. On a personal level, really, it's worried about how individuals make decisions, right? How much money should they spend? How much should they save? In fact, of their savings, where should they be saving things? Where are the places, right? On the business context, though, we're going to talk primarily about three things: how a company raises money, how firms invest that money to earn a profit, and how do they decide whether to reinvest profits or give them ultimately back to their investors. So managerial finance itself is just concerned with the duties of working within a business. Four primary tasks that they do is planning, financing, investing, strategic planning, and implementation. Now, one of the things that's certainly convenient about this course is that it really doesn't matter what kind of business you're talking about. All businesses utilize the same techniques, the same methodology. So in other words, investing money, using money is the same. It doesn't matter whether you're private, public, large, small, profit-seeking or not profit-seeking. Certainly there is a huge influence with the global environment, if you will. Right? There's lots more competition. It makes the financial manager's job much more complicated, much more important, obviously, and in fact, it really brings down emphasizes two very important tasks. We need to be able to manage cash flows in a variety of different currencies, and we also need to be able to protect against the risks that naturally come from dealing with the global environment. There are three basic kinds of businesses. There's a sole proprietorship, a partnership, and a corporation. And I'm sure you've heard of all of those. A corporation is what we're going to concentrate on. And essentially, a corporation is a person. They can do anything that you and I can do, with the exception of vote. So the rules that apply to them are quite frankly, very frequently, very close to the rules that impact us. And again, at the bottom here, the theories, the techniques that we're going to talk about apply to all these different types. So, what does the business environment look like? If you look at here, about 61% of all businesses are sole proprietorships, far and above the percentage of any other group, right? So most businesses are very small sole proprietorships. However, they only produce about 10% of all the revenues in the world. So, even though there's a great number, their influence on the environment, on the economy, is actually minimal. So this is where essentially, if you talk about trying to manage the taxes so that sole proprietors can invest more money, is really not as beneficial as it would ultimately sound, because they don't produce that much in revenue. Something's wrong, right? What does a corporation ultimately look at? And of course, the orange triangle here, if you will, this is the finance mechanism within a corporation. There is a CFO, person at the top of the pyramid, if you will, and they control two pieces, right? If you kind of divide this down, this piece over here is the accounting piece, and over here is the finance piece. So the person in charge of the financial decisions that we're going to be talking about ultimately is referred to as the treasurer. So they're the people that maintain cash, decide where money should go, help us with risk management. So let's talk about, in general, benchmarks. And your book uses the word goal. I've heard the word objective before. They don't really seem to fit the business context. But everybody understands the term benchmark. Whenever you make a decision, there is some line in the sand that's drawn that says if you step over the line, you'll do something. If you don't step over the line, you don't do something. There are 5 basic concepts that are all logical. They all make sense. They're all, quite frankly, good things to try to do. But what we want to talk about is a variable. What variable should you use in the decision-making process in order to decide whether a project is a good project or a bad project? The first 3 here are all very good goals, if you will. We would like to maximize marketing share. You want to get more sales. You would like to minimize the expenses of running your company. And of course, minimizing expenses implies that you might be maximizing profit. Now, maximizing profit is the item or the goal that most people discuss or talk about, and they say, this is really what I'm in business for. I'm here, well, actually, they usually say, I'm here to make money for the company. That's really not what you're there for. You're there to, what they really mean is they want to maximize profits. And those 3 things are all worthwhile goals. But we want to talk about what is it that the owners of a company really want. The owners of a company want to become wealthier. They want you to increase the stock price so they increase the wealth or the value of their portfolios. So the share price is the goal of a financial manager. Now, this is going to show up in a lot of different quizzes, etc. In fact, almost every quiz, almost every technique we talk about has this as an underlying concept. So let's say one more time. The goal of a financial manager, the goal of making a financial decision, is to see the stock price increase. You want to maximize share price, stockholder wealth. Now, the next line item also is quite relevant for the company, especially when we think of the ethics that absolutely have to be a part of our decision making. We would like to maximize stakeholder wealth. So we want to increase the wealth, if we can, of those stakeholders. And at least from an ethical perspective, we don't want to do anything that would deter from their wealth. So we'll talk about this a little bit in class because it deserves a little bit more attention than just discussing this with respect to a benchmark. So how does the decision rule work for managers? Well, financial managers, they have some decision they have to make. They have to analyze risk and return. We're going to discuss all of these as we go through the process. The next question is, after we've analyzed risk and return, how does that impact share price? If share price increases, then we accept the project. If it doesn't, we reject the project. And quite frankly, this all really boils down to, most of the time, a very simple concept of cost-benefit analysis. Let's find out what the costs are. Then let's ultimately analyze and try to determine what the benefits are. Now, we do that all within this risk-return concept. But once we've analyzed that, we'll come up with an answer of whether or not it increases value or whether it decreases value. So let's kind of look at this maximizing profit idea. Here's an investment in a rotor, right? And we're going to make $1.40, $1, and then 40 cents. So for 3 years, the total for this rotor is $2.80. Now we also could do this valve. So over the next 3 years, the valve could bring us $60, $1, and $1.40. So it actually creates more profit. The question, though, is which one of these is a better investment? First of all, timing is important. You'd rather receive money sooner rather than later. So rotor 1 has an advantage. You get your money quicker. Second, profits don't necessarily result in cash flows. We're going to talk about this in a great extent. We'll have a whole chapter where we talk about some cash flow items. And then finally, profit maximization doesn't talk about risk. What's the chance that these cash flows or these earnings per share, what's the chance that they actually happen? So profit maximization just doesn't necessarily lead directly to an increasing stock price. So why is that? Well, first of all, maximizing shareholder wealth considers the cash flows involved in the process. It also looks at timing. It also, excuse me, let me go back. It looks at cash flows instead of profits. It looks at when those cash flows come, the timing. And also, it involves an analysis of risk. And this essentially is what investors want. They want to become wealthier. So we have a very simple formula here. We'll develop this a little bit more as we go through the course. But the stock price equals the future dividends of the company divided by the required return. Well, the future dividends represents the cash flows, both the level and timing of cash flows, and the required return incorporates risk. We had mentioned these stakeholders. So again, let's kind of think about them again. We want to, the general topic here is that of a corporation being socially responsible. So I mean, we're going to talk a little bit about ethics. There are 2 videos that I would like you to watch that actually delve into the ethics issue a little bit more. But again, the idea of this goal is not necessarily to maximize stakeholder wealth, but certainly we want to preserve it. You don't want to do anything that would damage the wealth of stakeholders.